County Master Gardeners to help you create and maintain beautiful home landscapes. We've got a great program lined up for you today, Winter Protection. All registrants will receive a follow-up email with a recording of the class, as well as all links to websites or resources that our presenter may refer to. A QR code will also be included in the follow-up email, as well as at the end of our presentation. We do ask that you please fill out the survey because we do use the feedback to prepare and improve our future classes. If you have any questions during the class, please enter them in the group chat. Questions will be answered during the presentation, and if time permitting, we'll also have questions at the end of the class. So today, I have the pleasure of welcoming our presenter, Fort Bend County Master Gardener, Deborah Birch. Deborah completed her certification in 2002 as a Fort Bend County Master Gardener. She has since earned certifications in Advanced Trained Citriculture, Advanced Trained Home Fruit Production, Temperature and Tropical Fruit, and Advanced Trained First Detector Plant Disease. Deborah maintains a home orchard of over 60 trees and vines, both in ground and in containers. In her spare time, she wrangles a herd of Texas Longhorns, chickens, guinea fowl, dogs, cats, and grandkids. We're so excited to have Deborah here today. So Deborah, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, and welcome everybody. It's hard to believe we're talking about winter here in all this very hot, humid weather. But our proposal is that if you start planning ahead on the things that you need to do during winter, then it will be easier for you to accomplish those tasks. And you can also begin working on those things that need to be done to make sure you have a very successful spring. So our agenda today is we're going to get right into a lot of information, and we're going to wander around in a few places. We're going to do an introduction to our new weather reality. We're going to go over some garden observations and how to fix them, what is a freeze and cold protection, and we'll do finally tips, takeaways, and observations, and then we'll have questions and answers. So if you can hold them to the end, that's great. If not, just put them in the chat and we'll get to them as best we can. So frost and freeze, I thought we'd start off with that definition. Generally when you're talking about planting a vegetable garden, the packets or the information will refer to the first frost date and the last frost date. Well, the first frost date, of course, is that first date that you usually have a frost in the fall. And the last one is when the last frost of the year is the one that you have in the spring normally. So there are many degrees that lead up to freeze. And so the light freeze, which is our frost, is between 29, 32 degrees. That's when those ice crystals just begin to form on the leaves. On tender plants, you'll see some leaf drop. On hardy plants, you rarely see any damage. You might have some burnt leaves. A medium freeze is considered to be between 25 and 29 degrees. There's more damage to tender plants, and your hardy plants will also experience moderate damage. Severe freezes are those that are recorded at 25 degrees or less. Hardy plants can show severe damage depending on how low it gets. We can even go into death for them. And tender plants definitely are not going to survive. So what has happened to our winter? Well, there's a lot of information around. Texas A&M released a weather forecast, climate status report in 2021 that said that we were leaving a period of about 50 years where our winters were predictable and were kind of the same each year with nothing extraordinary. So we have left that, and we left it in 1999. Since then, we have experienced hotter summers, longer droughts, and warmer winters, but with more extreme freeze and precipitation incidents. So, yeah, everything's changing. The World Health Organization and the World Meteorological Organization is getting ready to release a joint climate change report discussing heat stress. And the National Weather Service Climate Prediction Center is saying that this year for Texas, we're going to have a La Nina, which means that we'll have a warmer and drier winter than normal. But if you check the Farmer's Almanac, it tells us that this winter calls for a season of dramatic swings and widespread wintry weather, and it's shaping up to be a wild ride. So get ready to chill, snow, and repeat. And it says for Texas, we'll have a wetter than average winter with periodic cold snaps. While snow will be limited, the region may face several cold rain events and occasional freezing precipitation, particularly in its northern areas. So this is what they're talking about on the observations and then projected temperature change. So this is from the 1900s through 1999, which is right here. And you can see it was reasonably consistent, but since then it has been going up. So this is our cold, our predicted cold, and this is the highest of our high temperatures that are predicted. So we will be expected to have big changes in by 2050, which is just 25 years from now. So that's not very long. And then by 2100, it's going to be difficult to remember what it was like in the good old days. So who has the answer? Is it the Almanac, the National Weather Service, the World Health? Who has the answer? Well, the answer that we're going to go with today is our state climatologist, John Nielsen Gammon. He is housed at Texas A&M University. That's his building, and I think that's a great shot with the lightning coming down. It kind of looks like a mad scientist is at work. But he is the one that released the assessment of historic and future trends of extreme weather in Texas, 1900 to 2036. Now, that's only 11 years from now, 2036. I expect to still be around by then. So what is he telling us? Well, here's the report highlight. And so the report highlight is telling us that by 2036, we can expect to be 3 degrees warmer than we were 1950 to 1999. It's also talking about more wildfires, how we're going to have more coastal subsidence, severe thunderstorms and tornadoes, and unexpected precipitation, urban flooding, dogs and cats living together. You know that old show. So anyway, it's exciting. Change is exciting. So last year they did this year they did a follow-up report which assessed what the report said, and it has more information in it, but basically it's telling us that our urban areas are going to have more water events, and that the hill country is going to be drier, and that there'll be more wildfires in West Texas. So what does that mean to us in our coming winter? Well, this is not us. This is a beautiful symbol of fall, but that's not what we see. So we're not going to have that in the future, that's for sure. But this is what we do have, and this is a beautiful fall landscape for our area. We mostly have trees that are evergreen. Our deciduous trees just turn yellow or brown and the leaves drop. But we have a wonderful area, and we are adapted to it, and we will continue. So what's the first thing we do to get ready for winter? The first thing we do as landscape managers, because that's who we are, we're going to take a critical look at our lawn and our garden. So for your lawn, you may need to continue your recommended mowing until your lawns go dormant. Now, St. Augustine grass and Bermuda grass both go dormant in the winter. Some people prefer a green lawn, so they will overseed it with rye. And if that's the case, you will continue to need to mow during the winter. Otherwise, your St. Augustine needs to be mowed between 3.5 inches, and Bermuda grass needs to be mowed about 2 inches high. Fertilizing. Do not fertilize your fall lawn unless you have overseeded it. Overseeded lawns should be fertilized December and again in February with a 1/2 pound of nitrogen 2100. Does not need potassium or anything else. Watering. Dormant grass does not need to be watered. And if you're watering it, you're really just inviting in weeds such as dollar grass that thrive in overwatered lawns. Controlling weeds, you want to use a pre or post emergent herbicide to control winter annual broadleaf weeds. Although we will caution you to not use weed and feed products since they are the #1 cause of declining health in shade trees in the South. Then you want to look for any diseases such as gray spot and other fungal diseases. So what is gray spot? Gray spot sometimes looks like it's brown spot, but it isn't, because it has telltale these gray spots on the leaves. And as the disease progresses, you'll see the blades begin to turn yellow. This is a fungal disease, and you're going to treat it much like you would treat other fungal diseases, such as brown spot. So how do we treat them? Well, you want to reduce your thatch layer, and you can do that by top dressing your lawn with about 1/4 of an inch of compost. The compost will invigorate the microbes, and the microbes will then eat or compost the thatch. Irrigate deeply but infrequently. In general, this means maybe once a week, but you want to do it for a longer period of time. Also irrigate in the morning so that your lawn can dry off quickly. Avoid using post-emergent weed killers on the lawn while the disease is active. Now, post-emergent weed killers would be those weed killers that you find in a weed and feed product. It would also be something like glyphosate or weed stop or something like that. Avoid medium to high nitrogen fertilizer levels. Improve air circulation and light. Mow at the proper height and only mow when the grass is dry. Brag and dispose of the grass clippings if the disease is present. And this is for all of the diseases because they are fungi and they are transmitted by spores. And control chinch bug infestations. This is a great link. You may want to take a photo of that. It's a great link that will go over all of these facts that we have gone through. Chinch bugs. The southern chinch bug is a real bane of our existence in summertime. This, at the top, you'll see another link that is very good for management of chinch bugs. What causes it? Excessive fertilization enhances thatch, too little or even too much water, hot, dry weather. Where do we want to look for it? Well, you want to examine the yellowing patches of your lawn, not the dead patches, because the damage has been done and they've moved on. When you roll back those yellow patches, and if it's chinch bugs, they will come up relatively easily. So when you pull it back, if you have 12 bugs per square foot, you need to do a treatment of your lawn. If you have less than that, then it's not really considered an issue. If you do the flotation test, which is a coffee can, let's say, and you cut off both ends of the coffee can and then you push it down into the soil a few inches, you fill it with water, within 10 minutes, you should see bugs floating. Now, if your coffee can is only 4 inches in diameter, then if you have 2 bugs, that's treatment time. If it's a 6-inch can, you'll want to see 4 to 5 bugs in order to treat your lawn. So what do we do about it? Well, again, top dressing the compost supports the microbes to reduce the thatch. You can also do lawn aeration. That's where holes are poked into the soil to bring in air, and then you want to cover again with compost to fill those areas. Vertical mowing is another way of just remove. It's like vacuuming your lawn. It's going to remove the thatch, but it should be done like in the spring when your lawn is growing actively, because it kind of tears your lawn up. It will rip the stolons up. So it's something to think about. And regulate irrigation to infrequent, longer durations. Biological control is one way of controlling these. There are some natural, I forget what they're called, but anyway, there's some natural forms that you can sprinkle on your yard and it will kill them. There are pesticides that kill through contact and through ingestion. And neonicotinoids are those pesticides that are taken up by the roots of the turf and enter the leaves. Then anything that eats on that leaf will die. The permethroids are those that kill on contact. And so if you spray your lawn, that bug has to be touched with the pyrethroid, or it can just simply walk across it later and it will also die. And needless to say, there are always unintended consequences with these. And so do read the labels carefully. Your garden beds. You want to remove all spent annuals. Leaving them there will simply bring in pest and disease to your beds. Weed, clean, and mulch all your beds in the fall. Divide perennials and transplant cool season plants. Heavily mulch dormant beds. And you can do this by putting down a sheet of cardboard and then cover it with mulch, or you can put layers of newspaper and cover those with mulch. And basically what it does is it gives you a really sweet spot of no weeds being able to grow until you're ready to put plants in there. And then you'll simply move the cardboard or the newspaper and plant as you normally would. Inspect your plants for disease and insect pressure. Use healthy leaves as mulch or compost. And for general fall care, now's the time to plant trees and shrubs. Prune dead limbs and twigs in trees and shrubs. And this is, again, is a very good link that explains pruning. Plant grass seeds if desired, if you want to continue doing lawn work over the winter. Insulate your pipes. Gather your wrapping supplies. That would be sheets, twine, bungee cords, tape, whatever it is that you're planning to use during the winter to cover your tender plants. Get those in one place now and be ready. Inspect your irrigation heads and flow. Turn everything on manually and just make a check of what is working and what is not working. And now is a better time to repair it than when it's cold and nasty outside. Apply a pre-emergent herbicide. A pre-emergent herbicide has one job, and that job is to keep seeds from germinating. So if you put down a pre-emergent herbicide in your walkways, in your lawn, you have to water it in very well. And what happens is that it sort of dissolves and puts a barrier on your soil that when a seed sits there, it will not be able to germinate. Now, a pre-emergent will not be able to help you with weeds that reoccur from the roots, but it will work with anything that comes from seeds. And then clean your tools so you'll be ready. And plan your spring plantings. That's what winter is really for, is just daydreaming. Now, as you're going through your landscape, as landscape manager, you want to take a close look at everything. If you're over by your crepe myrtles and you see something like this, then you know you have scale. And the way you know you have scale and not aphids is by running your thumb down the length of the infestation, and if it bleeds, it's scale. Aphids do not bleed. Now, entomologists tell me that this is not blood, but seriously, I don't care. If they're going to die anyway. So this is just plain scale. And the thing you really need to know about scale is that this enclosure here, that's the mother. She gives birth to live. She attaches herself to the surface, and there is nothing you can do to kill the babies under her. You can put oil, you can put poison. It's not going to touch them. You can squish them. That's helpful. But sometimes you can't get all the way up the tree. So timing is of the essence on when to go after scale. Now, these two are a bit different. This is a new pest that came into our area maybe 5 years ago. And this is crepe myrtle bark scale. It's much more difficult to eradicate than just plain scale. The steps that A&M recommends we use is to wash your tree with soap and water. A good brush reaching up as high as you can is helpful. Early March, you want to drench your crepe myrtle, the soil, with imidacloprid. You want to use 3 ounces per foot of tree height, but follow the directions on the bottle. At the end of March to mid-April, you want to use dietaphren, so bad with that, contact spray. And this link will explain to you exactly how to treat the crepe myrtle and the research that A&M did into this new pest. Now, when you're out there, if you see these little guys, don't panic. So this is the lady beetle nymph. Now, the lady beetle herself can eat around 200 aphids a day, and she's happy to do it. The nymphs, however, can go for about 450. So they are, think teenager. They are really hungry. Now, when they're finished being a nymph and they're ready to morph into a lady beetle, they're going to kind of snuggle up and attach themselves to the bark. And then they're going to split open on the back, and out pops this creature. You can see them here, all lined up. And this is your lady beetle. This species is the twice-stabbed lady beetle, and its very, very favorite food is scale. So if you see her, welcome her with open arms and don't do anything to discourage her. Another thing you might see when you're out with your crepe myrtles is that your leaves are turning kind of a yellow or an orange or a red color. There are spots, black spots with a kind of a yellow halo around them. Your roses might be turning yellow with black spots with a green halo around them. And then you'll see it in vegetable gardens, even on pomegranates. You'll see on this leaf that you have the same dark spot with a yellow water ring. That's Cercospora leaf spot. So it begins to appear. Now it starts early in spring, but you'll notice it around May through June. It is dark spots that begin on the lower leaves, and then it will move upward into the canopy of the tree. Now you use of fungicides, which it's most people's go-to. I'm going to use a fungicide. Those are not effective. It really doesn't do any good to use a fungicide. You're wasting money. You're really endangering other creatures. So no fungicides. Long term, it's not detrimental to the plant. It'll slow down growth on younger plants. And if your growing conditions are not ideal, it can weaken them even more than they normally would. So this is a very good link that you can take a photo of that one also, and that will give you all the information that you'll need about Cercospora. Now, Cercospora, we would treat the same way we would treat rust. So if you have a fig tree, it probably looks like this right about now. And the leaves look like this. Now that's rust. It's fig rust. It's an annual fungal disease, and we're going to have it because we have heat and humidity. So it is really the disease that you need to grow to love because it's a part of the landscape. Trees normally will bounce back without any treatment at all. There are no fungicides labeled for control of this disease. And once the symptoms appear, a fungicide would not change it anyway. Fungicides will only keep the disease from spreading. It will not cure the disease. Best way to treat rust and Cercospora is through good maintenance. Rake up and dispose of all your fallen leaves because they have spores on them. Prune out dense growth in the center for better airflow. Prune out any dead limbs. Use 2 to 3 inches of mulch, and this is fresh mulch. When you're raking up those fallen leaves, take away that old mulch also because it has spores in it. So put down a new layer of mulch under the canopy. Avoid overhead irrigation. That's, when it rains, and there's nothing you can do about it. But just doing overhead irrigation just worsens the matter. And again, another great link. You can take a photo of that. And the best time to prune figs is right after fruiting. And that's true for all fruit. All right, we're going to talk about some common pests that we will see while we're out doing our management chores. So there's a cold, hard truth in this world, and that's that every gardener will share space with pests. Even if your garden is the healthiest thing, it has beneficials everywhere, you still need to look for pest damage. Look under the leaves where they like to hide and where they leave their egg sacs. And you can get to know, you can recognize what pest it is by how they lay their egg sacs and what they look like, because they all have a different design that they have for their egg sacs. Decide when you see them whether you're going to tolerate the pest or whether you need to take action. If your pest damage is minimal, most organic gardeners just tolerate it. But if it is, because any pest control does have unintended consequences. But if you do have a high incidence of damage, you may want to use some control method. You want to always think of the bees, start with the least invasive control method, and move up to the more toxic. So if all else fails, and you need to use a chemical pesticide, you can always look to the USDA growers for using the least toxic and most specific remedy. The Cersei Society for Invertebrate Conservation offers guidelines. Non-toxic is Bacillus thuringiensis, which is BT, garlic, kale and clay, or corn gluten. Kale and clay is mixed with water and it is sprayed. Garlic is sprayed. BT can be in a powder form and just shaken, or it can be sprayed also. Corn gluten is usually just spread. Moderately toxic are these chemicals, and then the highly toxic are these. Now, diatomaceous earth is something that I use often and had never considered it to be highly toxic to bees. But that's, again, it's just one of those unintended consequences. Sometimes we just don't think about the things that we use and how it will affect other species. So what might you see on your plants that we can explain here? So these are aphids. Aphids come in a varying detail of colors and sizes. There are big ones, there are small ones. They go everywhere from a pale pink to black to yellow to red. And you can see on this leaf the many sizes that they are in. So these are the instars, and those are the steps that they take from egg to adult. And these little things right here, now you might look at this and say, oh, well, that's whitefly, isn't it? Well, it isn't. Those are just discarded ectoskeleton. So when you look at it, don't be confused by what you see. Now, these are aphids also. These are woolly aphids. They don't look normal, but yep, woolly aphids. And then these are also aphids. Aphids generally like to be under the leaf. They generally like to be on the tips. Scale, we're back to this old girl. So remember that the females offer a protective shell, and you need to monitor your infestation for when the crawlers come out, and then you can treat the plant. Whitefly, you can see how very small they are in this photo, but literally the little nymphs look like aphids. And you can see here, often there's some fiber involved, some webbing, and so people think, well, maybe it's spider mites and not white flies. But spider mites and white flies are treated by two entirely different chemicals. One is a insecticide, and the other one is a miticide. Speaking of spider mites, this is what you're looking for when you see their damage. It has a lot of stippling, puckering, scraping. They like to scrape the chlorophyll, the green, from underneath the leaf with their raspy tongue. And with a heavy infestation, you'll see some webbing on the plant also. They love hot, dry conditions. And then you might see this. It's called sooty mold, and it's a black fungi growing on plants. Now, when you see it, don't grab the fungicide bottle because fungicide's not going to fix this. In fact, sooty mold is not your problem. Your problem are one of those sucking insects that we just looked at, because they like to suck the sap out of the leaf and then they excrete a substance called honeydew. And sooty mold, that fungus, likes to grow on honeydew. Now, it can interfere with photosynthesis. It can inhibit the growth of smaller plants. So you don't want it to just sit there, but you can wash it off with water. And if it's stubborn, you might put just a little soap to act as a surfactant in breaking that sticky honeydew and getting the fungus off. Speaking of honeydew, this is an aphid. She has honeydew and she's excreting it for her young to eat. But this ant says, hey, wait a minute, I want that honeydew. And ants love honeydew to the extent that they will actually farm aphids. They will take the aphids from plant to plant. They will protect them from predators, and they will raise the young up to an adult. Pretty clever. So what are we going to do about all of those insects? Well, inspect your plants often. For scale, you want to use some double-sided tape and put it around the limbs above and below the scale. And that way, when you go out to look, you can see if the little crawlers are moving. If they're moving, it's time to use either an insecticide or a soap to kill them. You want to blow, rake, and dispose of all leaves if the plant is infected. Remove all the mulch, because often those creatures are in the mulch also. And you want to control your ant communities. If you have aphids and you have ants, the chances are the ants are farming the aphids. If you don't get rid of the ants, they will simply be bringing them back. Even after you've done a treatment, they'll still be bringing them back in. And then weed. And why? Well, it's because that's where insects like to overwinter. It's in the weeds. And what about our specialty plants? Well, if your plant is not cold hardy, it's probably in a container. And if it's in a container, you may as well just take it as close to that spot that you've designated for it to be overwintered in and just leave it there, so that you'll have less to do when we get that very short warning of a big cold event coming. Move some of them indoors. If you know that they are cold sensitive, just move them indoors. If there's a plant that you absolutely love and absolutely would be just so upset if you lost it, take a cutting and propagate it over the winter so that you'll have another plant in the spring. Cut down all tropical milkweed. This is the tropical milkweed. It's the yellow and yellow flower. So, who needs protection from the cold? Well, of course, any tropical plant that you're growing will need protection. Tropical plants do well until you get down into the 40s and then they stop growing. But you also might have some plants like plumeria, succulents. Often succulents need winter protection, as do cactus, and any newly planted tree or shrub. If your little tree or shrub has just been planted and it has not had an opportunity to acclimate for its bark to harden and for the roots to expand, then you need to think about protecting it when we have a really cold incident. So cold injury is actually influenced by several factors. And that, by the way, is a photo from my orange tree. And the very beginning, that's a photo of my garden during the 2018 freeze. So yeah, I have hard memories. All right, some of the factors that influence the amount of damage you'll have to your plants is the minimum temperature that the plant can withstand. All plants have a minimum temperature that they can still live with. So let's say lemons and limes, the minimum temperature is around 35. Anything lower than that, the chance of them dying is pretty good. Plumerias, you don't want to get them anywhere near 35 or below because they also can die. It also depends on the duration of minimum temperature or temperatures below your critical level. The time the freeze occurs. There's a big difference between having a freeze at dawn and having a freeze at sundown. Also depends on the size or the age of the tree and its stage of quiescence. Quiescence is that period that plants and some insects enter when they don't actually go dormant, but they have a much slower rate of growth and of photosynthesis. So they're semi-dormant, you could say, but it's really kind of a quiescence. And also depends on the variety of scion and rootstock for your trees. Now, many plants have rootstocks that are more cold hardy than the scion. So you just need to know what you have. And then it also really pertains to the overall tree condition. A very healthy tree can withstand untoward weather much better than a tree that has been struggling. How bad will it be? Well, 3 or 4 hours at or just below the threshold temperature is more damaging than a brief drop. So let's say my lemon tree, the threshold is 35, and we hit 35 and we're there for 4 hours. That tree will have more damage to it than if we have a hit of 32 degrees, but it only lasts an hour. So the time that it spends in freezing in the bad weather is important. December freezes are invariably more damaging than a freeze in late January. And of course, there's more damage with a late spring freeze after a week or more of warm weather. And tropical trees can acquire cold hardiness by exposure to temperatures. So trees in January are usually hardier than those in December. So, sad news of the week. Blankets do not keep plants warm. No, they keep us warm because we radiate heat, but plants do not. They have no ability to create their own warmth. So when we see landscape lollipops, then that's when people throw a sheet over the canopy of a plant and then tie it off. Those are not effective at all because they are excluding the most available heat to outdoor plants, which is the soil. On a cold night, heat from the soil will rise up, and if you can trap that heat, you will hold it in the canopy and raise that air temperature above freezing. And really, you've accomplished your goal at that point. This is also a picture of my garden. So effective cold protection actually begins with the site selection of your plant before you plant it. Cover, water, banking, one of the best, and insulation. So site selection would be to select a south side of a windbreak that will block the north wind. A fence, a house, garage, shed, all of those will absorb heat throughout the day and release radiant heat at night. For effective cover, you need to lay your cover over the plant and let the sides drape all the way down to the soil. Secure that with boards, bricks, anything that will keep it the wind from blowing it away, because the wind will drop temperatures quickly. After the freeze, you need to remove the cover to allow the sun to warm the soil once again, and then replace the covers as the sun goes down. You can use cardboard boxes and large garbage cans to cover the plants after you cover them with a cloth. And plastic sheeting or any material that radiates its heat quickly will burn the plant tissue where it touches. Plastic is good at holding in air, so you can always use plastic over a blanket or sheet. So this is the lollipop I was talking about. You can see the canopy is enclosed and tied off, and the radiant heat from the soil just whips around the side of it. In this one, the cloth covers the canopy and the tree completely, so the heat radiates up into the canopy and keeps it warm. Row cover will do a pretty good job of this, but it's a lightweight fabric, so you really want to look for frost blankets to do the job. And this is the big note. This is a half-done job. To complete this, we would need to put sheeting all around the edges and bring it all the way down to the ground. Plants that are suffering from drought stress are more susceptible to cold damage. Watering several days before the cold event will relieve drought stress. Watering right before a freeze, like the day of the freeze, will help create warmth in the soil, and it will slowly release during the evening. So although this is not going to provide full protection, you still need to use cover. It is something that is just a little bit extra. Radiant heat also is generated from water. So in this technique, you want to use several 5-gallon buckets, fill them with water, keep the lid on them, stack them around your tree, throw a blanket over the crown, and tie it down to the ground. You want to uncover the following day so it can reheat. Now, I use this technique and have used it often, but I don't go to this extreme. This guy, I know him, and he wanted to see, he was experimenting just how far up he could protect the canopy of his tree. Now, this is more realistic of using one 5-gallon bucket all the way around, and it's bear with me on this, but you can see that there is no snow in the lower parts of this tree, whereas in the upper parts, it's covered with snow. You can see back here too, there's no snow in this area because the radiant heat, but there's plenty of snow here on it. Ice. Many people want to say, well, why can't I use irrigation and just keep my irrigation going? Well, it is true that nurseries have used this in the past, although fewer and fewer of them use it now because it's pretty tricky. You have to time it just right to keep from causing more damage than just leaving your plants to fend for themselves. Banking is a tried and true method. You use clean soil, you pack it firmly around the base of the plant, and then you pack it up the trunk as far as you can get it. The more soil, the more energy that it absorbs from the sun and then is able to release at night. You can place them in January and leave them until February. It's something you don't have to be concerned about taking down and putting back up. They should be checked, however, right before a forecasted freeze because winds will cause the tree to wallow a bit, leaving a hole, and that hole can then take in ice or water and damage your trunk. To be most effective, the soil has to be in contact with the tree trunk. Topsoil is your best choice. Mulch or sand is usable, but they're porous and they can allow cold to seep in. So here are some examples of banking. This banking was done with a 5-gallon nursery bucket, both ends cut out and put around the plant, and then it is stuffed with soil and mulch. This worked because then a plastic bag was put over everything. This is, you can see it's a large mound of soil. It's very good. They did put some mulch on the top of it just to keep that soil from being blown away or washed away. And this is a very good banking technique. And then you can see this is banking on very young plants. And again, it works well. In banking, you will most likely lose your canopy, which means the following year you may not have fruit, but your plant in itself is alive and will regrow. And so that's a choice that we make sometimes. This is also 2 devices. This person is banking with bricks. This is going to be their radiant heat. And you can see they have little lights. They then throw a cover over it and anchor it to these stakes. And this, Steve, I know you're out there. Thank you for allowing me to use this photo. This belongs to a friend of mine. They're using a patio umbrella, and then it's covered with, I believe there's some quilt or sheeting underneath, and then plastic, and then they use these clips to hold it all in place. Insulation is accomplished by using various objects to keep the ice from forming on the trunk. Pipe insulation, sheets wrapped around the trunk, styrofoam or plastic is very spotty and it just simply doesn't work well. Fiberglass insulation or attic insulation does work well, but you must keep it dry. You can wrap your plants prior to the freeze, remove it as soon as the freeze is passed, otherwise it will overheat and you've lost ground. So these are some examples of wraps that you can buy in the commercial market. They are not really that efficient. All right, we've gone through a whole lot of information. So now it's time for tips and takeaways. All right, our climate is not the same as it was. That's true. For those summaries, these are the three climate summaries. These are the three links that I use for those photos. You can click on them and there's a lot of information involved, much more that I can go over. The initial report itself, I think it's like 5 pages. The highlights. As overall conditions in Texas get hotter, the number of extreme heat days with surface temperatures at or above 100 will continue. They will double by 2036 as compared to the early 2000s. These effects will likely be magnified in urban areas. Texas has noticeably warmed in recent years and is expected to continue to do so. These changes will interact with other effects and will affect our climate in ways of drought, access to water, ecosystems, and even human health. So we, as landscape managers, need to adjust our expectations of our plants and plan for the future. If you're planning to redo your garden beds in the back, instead of just putting in the same plants we've always planted, you need to think ahead and perhaps choose plants that are more adaptable to hot, dry weather. All right, I said cut down the tropical butterfly weed. And why? Well, it's because of OE. And I would say that, except I get tongue-tied. So what does OE do? Well, it's a little parasite that infects monarch, queen, and lesser wanderer butterflies. It causes deformed wings. They are born at a smaller size. They have decreased endurance and cannot complete migration, and it's impaired mating. In 1968, less than 1% of these butterflies were infected with this parasite, and today it's more than 10%. One contribution to this increased rate is places where the monarchs lay their eggs. And it has increased in density due to loss of wildlife habitat, widespread planting of exotic non-native species of milkweed, people raising monarchs, large numbers in confined spaces. Whoop, that was just too fast. So this is why we ask you to cut down the butterfly, the milkweed, because as they're migrating back, chances are that this milkweed was infected in spring, and by the time they come back through in the fall, then they will be easy for them to contract this parasite. Another tip, have your soil tested. This is a great link right here. It's going to give you all the information listed, including how to take a sample, how to ship it, the submittal forms. Everything is there for you. And when you get your form back, it's going to look like this. It's going to give you a lot of valuable information. It's going to tell you what your pH is, but most importantly, it's going to tell you what your levels of nutrients are in your soil. So you can see when I had this one done, come over here, it says for nitrogen, I'm low on nitrogen, so I needed to add 85 pounds of nitrogen per acre. Phosphorus, phosphorus. I had more than enough. This is my critical level right here. So I have over an amount of phosphorus, add none. Potassium, same thing. Calcium, got it. Magnesium, I'm good. Sulfur, oh, I need to add 5 pounds per acre. So it goes on. This will help you when you buy the fertilizer that you need for your soil and you're not putting too much in. In soils like our soils, the gumbo soils, too much phosphorus will lock up iron. It's not that you don't have enough iron, it's just that it's locked up by the too much potassium. So having the right amount of nutrients in your soil is very important. Our next tip, pesticides. Remember that pesticides are formulated to kill, harm, repel, or mitigate one or more species of insect. They all work in different ways. Some disrupt the nervous system. Some damage the ectoskeleton. Some simply repel them. Others control their growth or reproduction. And the most important thing to remember about pesticides are the unintended consequences. There are different levels of risk in all pesticides to non-target insects, which would be your beneficial pollinators, people, pets, and environments. So always buy the pesticide that is labeled for what you're needing to treat, and always read the label and always follow directions. Use of fungicides. Now, a lot of people just think that everything is a fungicide. And so actually fungicides are one of the most popular selling items in stores. But homeowners are generally discouraged from using fungicide products for their lawn and landscape for these reasons. No one product is suitable for every situation. A fungicide product is tailor-made for a specific fungal disease. The correct diagnosis of that disease is hard to do, especially if you're just looking at a photograph to try to figure out what it is. Timing, when and how. Much like I said with the scale, if you don't time when those crawlers come out from under their protection, then you're just throwing your money away on that pesticide. Timing is very important. It's also very important with fungi in the treatment with a fungicide. It's a complex task. And reapplication is necessary at intervals that depend on how long the fungicide persists. They all have different times that their shelf life, let's say, and how long they will remain effective. There's no available curative treatment. None of them are going to cure anything. Once the symptom is there, it's there. Fungicide applications will help only with preventing the spread to other areas. Again, great links. Here's another terrific link. If you have any fruit or nut trees, if you go on this link, you'll have this fruit and nut resource page will come up. Just about everything is listed there. You can click on pears and it will open up a vast amount of information about pears, variety, chill hours, how to plant them, how to care for them, diseases. It's all right there. And for lawns, we didn't forget you either. We have great information on St. Augustine lawns and Bermuda grass lawns. It goes into what to do, when to do, and how to do it. It talks about everything from picking a certain sod how to care for it, how to mow it. It goes into diseases and best care practices. So that's it. And it is now time that we can start doing some questions and answers. Here's another slide that you can take a photo of, and this is for the Master Gardener Helpline. If you have any questions, just send them to this email and attach photographs, as many as you can attach, put them in there. And then we will get back to you as soon as we can. And then here is the QR code that was promised. All right, do we have any questions?
Okay, if anybody would like to, are we able, Susan, to unmute?
Yes.
Okay, if anybody would like to unmute and ask Deborah a question, you're free to do so.
They're stunned. No questions.
We did have to restrict people's ability to put their questions in chat, but you can certainly send your chat questions to our host, Rochelle Levin, or to myself, or I'm hesitant to open up the chat at this point.
Oh yeah, that threw me a little.
I am.
It threw all of us.
We will not allow that to happen in the future, and apologies, that was unacceptable.
Yeah, it's pretty shocking, but it happens, you know. Okay, so no questions. I answered everything, and that, or everyone's asleep. It's one or the other.
Just one question. Can we get a copy of this presentation with the links? Because a recording is not going to help specifically with the links.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, thank you.
Everyone who came to the program or even registered for the program will receive the recording, as well as a list of all the pertinent links that were provided.
Perfect. Thank you.
It'll be a few days.
That's okay. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for a great presentation. I have a question, and I don't know, maybe you have or not used that, but I've seen these cables for keeping the soil warm. You know, they're similar kind of to the cables that people use in cold climates to keep their pipes from freezing. I saw some on Amazon for keeping the soil warm. Do you have any experience with that, or do you know anything about those?
I know a little about them, but I have not ever used them because really we never, well, I'm just going to say we've never gotten cold enough to freeze our soil. Where those are popular is where the soil does freeze, but we don't have that problem. I don't know if they would create a radiant heat situation. I'm assuming they would. If it's hot enough to warm the soil, then it must radiate up. But, you know, there are other things that you can use, like that photo of the tree that had the bricks around the bottom and then the lights in there. Christmas tree lights work very well. It needs to be the old Christmas tree bulb, not the LED. But the old ones generate just enough heat to bring the temperature above freezing.
So, but
Just to note that if we lose power, any electrical protection will go away. The water buckets do work. I've used them.
Yeah, you know, that's true. I don't use electrical simply because of that, because it seems to me when we have our very, very worst weather is when we also lose power. So it's difficult. So I do what I can without electrical help, and it seems to work well. So the buckets are good. The banking with soil works very well. The only problem with the banking is that you do have to, you know, you're in and out, take the covers off, put the covers on, that type of thing. And that doesn't help if like, I forget what year it was, but I think we were in the 20s for 3 days straight. We never got above freezing. So if you went out to take your covers off, you were exposing your tree to the freeze. So sometimes you're just not going to win. But as a rule, with the types of winters we've had, banking, water, and covers work pretty well.
Also, just another note, the banking works very well for bulbs. If you have any bulbs that you can cut down, more like tropical items too, if you cut them down and then put the soil or I'll put a bag of mulch on it. It has saved my bulbs every year, even the year that we had the snow for like 5 days on the ground. So
Yeah.
I definitely do that for my bulbs that I want to save as well. But as Deborah also mentioned, thankfully our ground never actually freezes.
No.
So, sorry, I may have missed this part, but so when we're trying to protect especially I've had, lost all my citrus for the 2 major freezes.
My sympathy.
So I know it was tragic.
Yes.
Especially since one was a Meyer lemon, which had a bumper crop.
Oh,
And
sure.
that December it died.
I just rubbed salt in the wound.
Yes. So what are we trying to protect the most? Is it the canopy? Is it the trunk? Is it the roots, or all of the above?
Well, this is when you really have to listen to what they're telling you is coming. It depends on how cold it's going to get. So true lemons and true limes are your least hardy of all. And they actually should never be in the soil. They should be in a container that you can put in. Now, a Meyer lemon is not a true lemon. It's a hybrid. So it's better at weathering the winter than a lime or true lemon might be. Oranges are better than lemons. Satsumas are better than oranges. So a satsuma can do temperatures in the 30s. And a kumquat can take temperatures down to 15. So you have to know your plant's critical number, and then you have to know what's coming. Now, if I have a kumquat and I know it goes down to 15, and this is not a sudden cold, I've had some cold, so the tree is now in a quiet period. I know that I can get out there and throw a cover over my tree. It's only going to get down to like 20 degrees. My tree is going to be fine. But if they say it's going to, get down to 13 degrees and stay there, then I know I'm going to lose that canopy anyway. So I need to go in and protect the trunk, because that's the real life. Now I'm going to lose the canopy, even though I wrap it, even though I cover it, that canopy is still going to be damaged, and I will lose like the next crop, but I will save that trunk, and most importantly, the graft line. You have a rootstock, and then you have the plant that you bought. They're grafted together. That's what you want to protect, is that part of the trunk, because that's going to keep your plant next, when it's all over, it will come back and grow, and you don't have to start over again. So it depends on the critical threshold of the plant, depends on if it's the very first freeze, or if it's like we're into the cold a month or so and they've been able to harden off a bit. And it depends on the length. How long is it going to be? Is it going to be a 3-day event, or is it going to be a very short 1-day event? And then you have to decide, what can I save? Did that
So
make
it was,
sense?
sorry, it was interesting because all the rootstock survived.
Mhm.
And I still left it there because it's still green, but
Yes.
all the scions died off.
Yes. And yeah, that's why we use that rootstock. It's probably chorizo, and because chorizo is very cold hardy. So that's why you really have to do a very good job of banking that soil up above that graft as high as you can, so you have some of that left that will regrow. That's the most, when it's really like that big freeze we had that came in. I lost 13 trees myself, big trees. And I lost most of them, even though I had gone out and banked. And I lost them because we had 3 days where we never got above freezing. Well, there are some things you just can't do anything about. And that was one of those events. So we start over. But again, to answer your question, you have to gauge what is your plant's threshold, what type of weather is coming in, how long is it going to last, and then from that information, what part of the plant can you save?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other
Are there
questions?
any other questions?
Just one other question from my side, but this is related to the grass. I do have a Bermuda grass lawn, but it does get contaminated with St. Augustine when the lawnmower actually cuts it. How do we prevent that contamination? I mean, because I find it very difficult to get rid of the St. Augustine from the Bermuda grass.
Yes, and there's always a contest between those two, and there even have been contests to see which one would win, the St. Augustine or the Bermuda. Do you do your own lawn, or is it a lawn service?
I do have a lawn service.
All
But
right.
it is one patch that the St. Augustine keeps coming back, and I keep trying to kill it, but very
Yes. Well, you're most likely you got your San Augustine from your lawn service, and that happens. Once it is established in your lawn, it is difficult, and the only thing you can really do is to use like a glyphosate to kill that patch. Now, you can do it in small sections, depending on how big that patch is. You can do it in small sections at a time, because you want that Bermuda to overrun the area quickly. So knowing that Bermuda is warm season grass, you don't want to do it too early in the season. You want to do it when your Bermuda is actively growing. And then you can go in with the glyphosate or whatever you plan to use, maybe cut a little section and kill off that San Augustine, and then put some compost down in there, and that will encourage your Bermuda grass to fill it in.
Okay, thank you. I've tried this before, but I probably have to try it a bit more with compost. I've not tried it with compost. Yeah.
The compost helps because it will feed the microbes, and it will encourage the Bermuda to grow. Now, Bermuda will grow best when it's mowed at the right level. So Bermuda should be kept around 2 to 2.5 inches maximum for height. If you let it get longer than that, it actually slows down its growth. So keep it cut very short, and it will then mat over into the St. Augustine. The St. Augustine is extremely aggressive, so you will need to make sure that it doesn't move into that area again, and you have to get out, as you know, all the stolens, all the roads.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? No questions? Okay, well, I hope everyone enjoyed
It was
the,
amazing, Deborah.
oh, well, thank you. I
So
hope,
good.
all
So
right.
good. And again, if everybody would just take a moment to fill out the survey, we do, again, greatly appreciate it. We really do go through every single comment and make our presentations and our content better based on the information that we receive. So we do thoroughly go through all of these, so we appreciate it if you fill that out. Deborah, this was an amazing, I loved it. This was perfect. This was great.
Well, thank you very much.
And can I be your protege? Will you teach me everything you know, please?
Oh, of course.
Yay! Can I just shadow you everywhere?
Now it's getting creepy.
Okay. Okay, well, everybody, thank you so much for attending. We have listed in the chat our information for the hotline. So if you do have any questions, please send them there. Somebody will get back to you. This is our last class for 2025. We already have our 2026 classes prepared, and we will have them ready for next year. So we hope to see you in 2026. So thank you again. Everyone have a good day. We can stop
Bye,
the
everyone.
recording, Susan.